Hey guys, it's Steve with Prima Coffee. Today we're taking a look at the Astoria Tempesta. It is their newest high-end espresso machine, both beautiful to look at on the outside and lots of really awesome stuff going on inside as well. So obviously I have a 2-group model with me today. The Tempesta is available in both 2 and 3 groups. And what's really interesting about this is that, obviously Astoria is known for pretty good quality machines that tend to be a little bit more affordable. They're not necessarily the highest end machines on the market until today. Now we're bringing a lot of tech into the Tempesta. We're bringing an option from Astoria that really makes it a lot more competitive with some of those higher end things like La Marzocco and Nuova Simonelli, machines that might have a little bit more kind of high-tech, high-profile features that make them a little bit more interesting for some of these modern cafes that want a beautiful machine with a little bit of flash as well. So the Tempesta is kind of going into that territory. Obviously we have very notable features like this big, very beautiful body design, bright upfront LCD displays on the barista side of things, a very modern style look, just a gorgeous machine to look at for sure. Inside we have a multi-boiler setup, so we have an 8.5 liter steam boiler with a 3,000 watt heating element, plus individual brewing groups with their own boilers with 1.2 liter brew boilers with 1,000 watts of heating element power each, plus heating elements in the group heads, so you have very stable temperature system all through. The 3 group obviously has a 3rd boiler and group, but the steam boiler is the same size and power. So let's kind of take a look at what's going on the barista side of things. Obviously we have these big LCD touch displays, and as far as an interface for the barista, that's pretty nice as long as it works well, and thankfully these guys do. So we have 6 programmable volumetric buttons. Obviously I have 3 singles and 3 doubles. I also have a hot water button and a continuous flow button, plus this button, which is a mechanical button located right over the portafilter, which is super handy. You can just sort of lock in the portafilter and hit this button. Now, this button can be configured in a few different ways. One way is to have it set up as a purge. So let's say you've just finished pulling your shot. You can take out your portafilter, knock out your puck, hit this button, get a few second purge to maybe rinse your portafilter and lock back in. Also rinse those stray grinds off your spray heads. You can also set it up so it pulls just your standard normal double, which is the center double button on the display. And that could be pretty handy because maybe you're just pulling a lot of shots under that recipe profile. It's really, really convenient to just lock in your portafilter and hit that button without having to come up and hit the touch screen as well. So if that's kind of like your most common shot that you pull, that's a really handy button to have. Now, like I said, all these buttons are set up as volumetrics, so you can program each. And in fact, I can show you a little bit here. If we go into our coffee recipes, you can take a look at these and you can set up your pre-infusion time. You can set your volume in milliliters as desired. So you can have 6 different shot profiles. So like, let's say you like to pull a little bit shorter shots with maybe a little bit longer pre-infusion time for cappuccinos and other milk drinks. You can set that up pretty easily, and it's very easy to access. Even as a barista, a lot of other machines make it a little bit harder to navigate those sub-menus. This is a great, having a visual display is a really great way to go in and be able to change these parameters. And, setting something for pre-infusion is as simple as tapping that actual pre-infusion time, changing a value and hitting OK. So it's a very, very intuitive menu, very easy way to set up your brewing recipes. We can head back out and take a look at some of the other features that we have. So again, I have these 6 programmable volumetrics. I also have a hot water button. We have a hot water wand just on the left side of the machine, and both groups can access that hot water dispensing. You can actually program your hot water dispense in seconds, just the same way that you would program your other recipes. So very easy to set that up. And let's say that you typically only use it to rinse something, you only need 2 or 3 seconds, you can set it to that. If you more typically use it to fill up cups for like an Americano or something, you can set it to 8 to 10 seconds or something like that. You have a lot of versatility in how you set that up. And you can actually change it based on the group that you're using. So each group can be set independently in terms of recipes. And then we also have this, like global recipes basically. So if I go into my recipe choice in the menu, I have 4 recipes set up that basically are sort of overall programs that allow me to set coffee boiler temperature, the group temperature. I can set up my different volumetric settings for each of these recipes. So I have 4 options, and I can load them independently on each group that I have, or set it back to a standard recipe as well. So technically sort of 5 recipe choices that I can use to set group and boiler temperature plus my actual volumetric profiles. So tons of options in terms of customization and kind of loading things back and forth. So like let's say you're running a single origin coffee on one group and your house blend on another. You can really easily kind of set those up so they're running separately for what you need. Now, taking a look at some of the other things that we have going on, obviously we have this great big workspace, super accessible. We have raised groups with a lot of clearance. So tons of open workspace, which is really great as a barista. You don't tend to feel very cramped on this drip tray or in the work area. Very big actuating steam arms with tons of steam power, and we have these great tunable steam levers. So there's a little bit of play in terms of how much that valve opens up. You can kind of fine tune it as needed. These steam arms stay pretty cool to the touch, even for sort of extended periods of steaming. They do get a little bit warm after a while, but it's not quite like a really hot steam one where you grab it as soon as you're done steaming and it's going to burn you. So even though they're long and sort of kind of in the way, so to speak, they're not really too harmful. They stay very comfortable to the touch, and that tunable lever is really great in terms of steaming smaller quantities of milk. You can very easily control your steam with just kind of a quick pull of the lever, and you get a real good feel for what position you want that to be in for how much milk you're steaming and what kind of texture you like. Great big drip tray. Obviously, it's very accessible, easy to remove and clean. And of course, we have nice big portafilters. So some of Astoria's other model portafilters don't take quite as deep baskets, but I've actually got Pullman baskets in these, the 19 to 22 grams, so kind of borderline double, triple. So it's got really, really deep portafilters that will accommodate a larger basket if that's what you like. 58 millimeter groups and steel portafilters, really, really great, quality, very modern style espresso machine. And again, kind of designed to be more competitive with some of those higher end models that you see on the market today. So let's pull a shot. We're just going to go through and just kind of pull a standard double, and we'll get to take a look at one of the more interesting features of this screen. So obviously we have a great big touch screen here, which is a really nice display to have, not only when you're using and programming the machine, but while you're using it as well, because when you are pulling a shot, you can actually have a graph display that in real time will show your pressure and your flow rate. So if I just hit my double here, you'll see I immediately get a graph showing up. I've got a time counter on the top. I've got a readout of my pressure in bars. I also have a graph of my pressure, and I can have a readout of my flow rate as well if I like. So in real time, you're seeing, more or less the metrics of what's going on with this shot, which means that, if I were to see a dip in pressure, or actually if my pressure shoots up far too quickly, I can kind of get a sense of what's going on with my shot without having to wait the full 30 or so seconds to say, oh man, that ran fast, or, that seemed to sort of choke up. You get a much quicker sense of what's going on. And especially when you're looking at flow rate, it takes a little bit of learning, but you can kind of understand what's going on in terms of your pre-infusion stage, how fast your coffee is, or how fast your coffee is pulling, or how much flow is going through the puck. Like perhaps you have some channeling going on because your flow rate is higher than expected really early on in the shot. So there's a lot of interesting ways that you can use that information as a barista to make sure that you're pulling very consistent shots. Otherwise, obviously, you still have the ability to say, well, my volumetrics are set up, I have the right volume in the cup, and it took this amount of time. You can go a couple steps beyond that to say, well, here's what my pressure looked like, and here's what my flow rate looked like during the course of that shot. So really interesting information to have as a barista. Probably takes a little bit of time to get used to and sort of understand what patterns you want to look for and what you want your graphs to look like. But at least you have that information. Which means that you are going to be a more informed barista, which probably means you're going to be able to better dial in your coffees and make sure they're running consistent throughout the day. So overall, very interesting set of features, a very impressive high-end machine coming from Astoria with lots of versatility, lots of programming ability to make it do what you need it to do and what you want it to do, as well as stay consistent throughout the day. So that is the Astoria Tempesta. Thanks for watching. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. If you want to see more content like this, we've got all kinds of product overviews, comparisons, recipes, events coverage, and more. Feel free to subscribe, like, share this video, and let us know what you think in the comments.